So guys, welcome to Alternate Revenue Streams. This is a panel with some really awesome people that are going to help you guys identify some ways you can make some more revenue outside of painting. So I'm going to go through kind of each individual, give you a little background about what they do and how they can serve you guys in today's panel. So I'm here with Paul Baluk. Paul Baluk is a services and franchising executive with 17 years of experience growing and scaling businesses such as 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Shack Shine, and House Doctors. As an entrepreneur, advisor, and investor, Paul has the unique ability to enable teams and organizations to succeed through a focus on growth and scalability. Over the years, Paul has led teams across multiple brands, collectively contributing to $100 million in revenue, 150 locations, and a 4,700% growth. While at Shack Shine, Paul launched Holiday Lights across all locations, growing it to $15 million in just 4 years. So Paul is the founder and CEO of Holiday Lights. So give it up for Paul for being here today. Let's hear about some Holiday Lights, okay? Just a show of hands, is anyone here interested in Christmas lights? Has that come up? Good. So we have some people here that are going to get a lot of value from Paul. So next, let's get Mr. Nick Kelly. They don't have the bio here, but Nick Kelly's a great friend of mine. I've known Nick for many years. He is the CEO of Elite Home Renovations. He does some unique things. What are some of the things that you do in your business?
So we do tile, flooring, and then we just opened a brick division. So we got Elite Brick and Masonry as well to stack with our exterior painting as well.
Awesome, guys. Give it up for Nick. He'll be giving us some value today as well. Mr. Russell Peach, CEO of Peach Painting and Peach Flooring out of Tampa Bay. Someone that's, very driven, very connected in the industry. Started Peach Flooring last year or a year before, so I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more about that. Guys, give it up for Russell. He'll be giving us some insight today. And then Mr. Will Reyes, Battleborn, painting, micro coatings, and gutters. So really amazing entrepreneur here, of course. Guys, I'm sure most of you know Will. Give it up for Will. He's going to be giving us some value today. Cool. So guys, we're going to kick it off with some general questions, but I really want to make it interactive. So we'll do a couple questions that I have here. Please raise your hand. Make this interactive. If you have a question, we'll ask the entire panel to answer. If it's something specific, we'll figure that out as well. All right, so let's get started. So let's talk about timing. What determines the right time to add a revenue stream outside of painting in your business? And I'm going to kick it off with Mr. Will Reyes here. Let's get started.
Hello? Can you hear me okay? For us, it was when we had a full office. We had an admin. We had somebody answering phones, doing scheduling for us. And then when we had, every department had their own head. So when we decided to bring on another trade, let me back that up. When we first did it, we didn't have those things in place. And our first extra trade was countertops and bathtubs. And that was a disaster, We didn't have enough people to do it. We didn't have the right infrastructure. And I didn't lose anybody, but we ended up shutting it down because it wasn't a right fit for us. And then when we had all that stuff in place, we ended up adding floor coatings, and that's when it took off. We partnered with PaintED, who's a good company, and they showed us a lot of things that was working for all the other dealers. And they literally just said, just do this and you'll be successful. And once we started doing that, it was successful. So that's when it was for us.
Just to reinforce with what Will said, you should have all of your you should have a lead in each area already dialed in, but I think that it's really smart to do it if you have all your systems in your business. If you have a really solid, softwares for your company, if you have SOPs, you have a full office team, project management team. That's when we found it to be successful because our project managers were able to run painting and flooring. Our office staff, our call center, were able to book appointments for both of them. So we're not just juggling both or the owner trying to pick up the phone and book appointments or run project management on two completely different job styles.
We do, yeah. So for timing for Holiday Lights, the beautiful thing about Holiday Lights is all of us run different business sizes. We're in different regions, different demographics, and Holiday Lights is really busy from October till January. You do installations in October, November, removals in January, February. And a lot of us, depending on the climate we're in, we're quite seasonal in those months. So it's the ability to add revenue in those slower months. So it doesn't matter if you're a $100,000 business you just launched this year, or you're a $10 million painting business. The timing is if you're in a seasonal climate or you want to keep your guys busy throughout the winter months or you want to add revenue, more profitability, you can add lights at any point in your business.
Yeah, I think that was great because obviously with the seasonality, like he was talking about with the lights, I think it depends on what you're trying to add as well, right? For us, it was easy. We do a bunch of kitchen cabinets. So adding backsplash, tile floors, countertops was just a no-brainer because when we could kind of basically GC everything, we picked up some subs. Our PM manages all of those things as well. It was just more money in our pocket and pretty easy. I definitely think that, like they were saying, definitely have to have some SOPs. I definitely recommend having a project manager and an admin for sure. And you definitely got to know how to sell the stuff. So coming from my background, it was pretty easy for us to teach selling tile based on the square footage and stuff like that. So I guess it just depends really. So I don't think you need a head of sales, a head of PM, but if you have a PM and you have an office, depending on what you're bringing on, I think that's plenty far ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Next question. How do we ensure quality stays at the same as our core product in our alternate revenue streams, right? So we spend a lot of time perfecting painting, and then maybe that flooring project might not have the resources or the types of the communication the same way that the painting project did. How do you ensure that quality stays the same even though you do a lot less volume when it comes to an alternate revenue stream?
So what do you mean a lot less volume in the alternative?
So you have a core product, right? So your core product is painting, and you might do 1 or 2 flooring jobs a month or 1 or 2 brick installation jobs a month, and you don't have as many reps, right? You don't have as much time invested in that sales process, in that production process. So how do you ensure that in the customer's eyes, they see it as the same quality, same type of experience as they had when it was the painting? Sometimes when we use subs, right? Sometimes it's, there's a little bit of a drop off. Sometimes people might think it's risky to take on a different trade for that reason alone. So maybe hit on that a little bit.
So it sounds so let me just say, I understand what you're saying, but for us, what you're talking about is a service, and we refer to those as other trades. So for instance, our painting company has a different division that does cabinets, and all those guys do is cabinets every day. And so that baby has its own person that runs that, and it has its own budget, along with gutters, the same thing. Like our painters don't do gutters, and our floor guys don't paint, and our painters don't do that. So if you're... Right, let me get that. So those people, we have their own champion. So like I don't ever deal with any of the customers that deal with the coating side. For our coatings, our gutters, and our painting, everybody has a PM and everybody that has leads under them that goes up to that. So the quality of standard is always going to be the same because we're not taking the same guys and using them for other different trades. So the same guys do the same job every day. So if you're a painter and you're like, hey, I want to do floor coatings, and you're going to use the same guys, that falls under a service and that doesn't fall under a different trade. So it can be dangerous when people go, hey, I'm going to be a painting contractor. I'm going to spend $40,000 on flooring equipment because I heard Will is making all types of money, 68% GP, crushing it, busting out floors a day. And then their painter's like, I hate this. I don't want to work on my knees. I don't like the grinder. The sound's bugging me. I got vertigo or whatever it's going to be. So they have their own babies. So as far as quality control goes, that's how that works. The SOP is already set up, and that's a different trade. We don't treat them as a service. We treat it as a different trade. Same thing like Russell, and I'm sure he's going to talk about it, like his flooring guys don't paint. So that's why he can ensure the quality, and I'll let him talk about it. I don't want to get in your Kool-Aid there. So that's how we ensure the quality is everything's going to be the same. You're just getting different people from the same company to do it. Does that kind of answer the question? Yeah, and just so everybody understands, I'm not discounting anybody's ability to do floor coatings and painting and do that, because Chris Mole is a great example of that. He called me up. It's like, hey, I want to do floor coatings. So he bought a really simple system, and he crushes it. But he can do those multiple trades because of the area he's in. They don't have people that do those multiple trades, so he's forced to do that, right? So if you're in a small town, it's smart to get into those different things. But if you're in a bigger city and you're trying to get your painters to do these multiple trades, probably not advisable. So
Great advice. Awesome. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, I agree with everything Will says. Our flooring guys will only touch flooring. Our cabinet guys will only touch cabinets. Our interior and exterior painters will only touch interior and exterior. Our carpenters will only do carpentry. And I'll tell you guys how I learned a little bit the hard way. So we are 100% subs on all flooring and all painting, and it works great. But when it doesn't work great is when you're really starting off and you maybe only have one sub or two subs. So you could start a job, and if you want to fire that sub for not holding your standards up to par, what can you do? If you don't have another sub, you kind of got to ride it out. Now your client experience goes way down. And if you guys are selling your jobs for a little bit more than what everybody else in the area is, which I hope everybody in this room is, it's all about the client experience. It's never about the price. It's about the client experience. So I think if you are venturing into other revenue streams, flooring, for example, that's what I did. First thing I did was, after I took that learning lesson, I went and I vetted out 10, 15 flooring subs. Now we have a full spreadsheet with all of our flooring subs. If we want to fire somebody, then we can just throw somebody else in, easy as that. But absolutely, it's all about the experience. You don't want to just have the one guy and completely tear down both companies, because you can hurt your reputation on your painting side by giving a bad experience on your flooring side as well. So always got to think about both sides.
Awesome. Thank you.
For holiday lights, you can look at quality from two different perspectives, operationally and then customer experience as well. From an operational perspective, for holiday lights, a lot of businesses use their existing staff to install lights, and it's actually quite simple. It's all custom cut, commercial grade, really easy to use. A painter or technician can pick it up in less than a day and be really proficient at lights. There's not as much complexity to lights as there is in painting, with preparation, surface levels, different paint colors, different substrates. It's a simple business. So from an operational perspective, quality is actually much easier compared to painting. From a customer experience side, the beautiful thing about holiday lights, it's so magical for customers. You put on the lights, you turn it on, like, wow, it completely changes their mood. Their eyes just light up. It's a bright, happy, magical service. If anybody uses NPS here, like Net Promoter Score, or Google reviews, they're actually much higher in holiday lights because it's such a magical service and such a wow factor for customers. So quality, a lot easier than many think from an operational side and a customer experience side.
So with us, we just do a vetting, right? So if I bring on a sub, we bring them in, and then we ask to go to one of their job sites from start to finish, okay? Me, my PM visit them. We usually visit at least 2 job sites. We see what the customer experience is, because that's big to us, right? And also the quality of the work. The one thing that's nice is if you build your brand correctly, a lot of times it gravitates to the correct subcontractors, I guess you could say. So, we have great subs for our exterior. We sub out all of our exterior work. We sub out all of our tile work as well. And it was relatively easy, but you just have to have a vetting system. Even with painters, like when we're getting a sub, like we're like, awesome, like we're gonna come out to your job, we're gonna see what your prep work's like, we're gonna see what it's like with you talking with the clients. So it's not a guess. Like I'm not willing to put someone on one of my jobs where I have a 5-star review, you know what I mean, like 250 5-star reviews, to take a chance to get a bad review. So I'd rather check out their jobs, make sure they're a good fit, have them come inside my subcontractor agreement and get things popping.
Yeah, great advice. Guys, I'd like to ask the crowd here, anybody have some questions for the panelists here? First hand I saw. You, sir. Hold on one second. Let me get over to you. Just your name, your question.
Austin Ilsley. I guess my immediate thought was project management. So do you use your same PMs for the painting as you would or do you have a dedicated PM for every service as well? And I guess if that's the answer, yes, I see you nodding. If that's the answer, then getting that second service off the ground, do you have enough work to keep a PM busy, or do you have to keep it in-house for a little bit before you actually get the volume?
So for us, yeah, like we're doing backsplashes and floors, right? We vet the subs. So our same painting PM, great at our customer experience and everything like that. They go in, as crazy as it sounds, it's not that hard to see if the grout lines match, if the tile looks good, right? So that's relatively easy, right? So I guess it depends on what different trade you're jumping into, right? But yeah, our PM manages all of that. Like he's managing 2 tile jobs, 2 cabinet jobs, 3 interiors this week, right? And he's gonna do it all, so.
PMs for Holiday Lights, again, it's such a scalable, simple business. The average crew, I mean, can do anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 a day in revenue and very little oversight from a PM perspective. It's a simple business. There's not much complication to it. So the same crew, the same team can handle Holiday Lights, especially in a seasonal capacity. Easy transition. The toughest part with Holiday Lights is actually ladder work, but you guys are experts in ladder work. So if your PM is proficient, knows the business, it's really easy to transition them to be knowledgeable in Holiday Lights.
Real quick, we did build checklists for them. So like to make it easy, right? We built checklists. So like there's a checklist for looking at a tile job. There's a checklist for cabinets. There's a checklist for interior, just to help you a little bit with that. So it's not just off the cuff.
Do you got the question?
Yeah, so that was a really good question. And, I was concerned about a lot of the same things whenever I was launching my flooring business, so I'm glad you brought this up. So when I start, backtrack, my painting company is running really heavy on overhead. So my idea was, let me just run as lean as possible with my flooring side. So I can grab my PMs from the painting side and they can manage the flooring side, but you're absolutely right. If they don't know how to look for the flaws in a job, how are we gonna turn in a finished product? So in painting and in flooring, we don't want our project managers knowing too much about paint. We want them to make sure that client experience is top tier, make sure they're able to finish within budget, and make sure that our crews are happy. So overall, if there's a major issue where the client is really getting upset, we have really good relationships with all of our suppliers, painting and flooring. And if we need to get our rep in for flooring because something does look wrong, you don't know how to answer it, or the client's giving you really technical questions, we get our product specialists in and pass it back off to them.
Thanks for the question. Austin, is that what the name was? Isley? Okay. So for us at Battleborn, every trade has its own, own parent, own champion. Like I said, our PM that does coatings doesn't do painting, and our gutter PM has zero clue how to throw paint on the wall. And we want it separate. For guys that do mixed PMs, it's a great idea as you're growing up. But once you get to a point where you're doing over $1 million, you really got to assign its own champion. And so that's kind of the benchmark, for that kind of stuff. So we never had anybody that bled over. When we started the flooring company, we had a PM take over for painting, which I used to do. And then I oversaw the coatings, and eventually that grew up to the point where I didn't have to do with it anymore. And so most of the time I just look for a lunch date after our breakfast or our morning meeting. And so that's kind of the goal where a lot of the people in this room want to be. And so what I would suggest is, get comfortable making less so you can make more down the road. Don't get too quick to pay yourself more. Really have a champion for that business, and they can make that their baby. They get the call at 5 o'clock to deal with it, not you. So we highly suggest having its own when you get to a certain dollar point. For painting and coatings, those guys can bleed. Painting and gutters, they don't bleed, right? Those guys they're two different trades. They have nothing to do with each other. So we always suggest having its own, babysitter. The gutter always had its own champion, right? We never had anybody bleeding over. But for coatings and painting, I was the one that jumped into there. But you can bleed those too because they're very similar, A painting expert understands when you put a coating on the ground, what it's supposed to look like. He understands if it was laid out right or it got too hot and, the back roll started rolling up on you and it starts bubbling. So a painter understands what's going on with coatings, but a gutter guy won't. For us, the $1 million mark was the mark that we understood, like we could never have those jobs blending because it's just too much business, For us, what we do, we paint a house a day. So we have 2 crews, and so we paint, 6 to 7 houses a week. And so our coatings crew is the same thing. We do at least 1 job a day. So there's no way I could have 1 PM trying to bleed any of those things. It's just too much chaos. And we wouldn't want it anyways. It'd be too much work on a guy. We have a whole system for our PMs. They don't just go there and look at a job and collect a check. There's multiple steps for our PM, from the call before to the call after, to the follow-up call. It's like we're over servicing, so it wouldn't be suffice for us. So if you are looking for a guy that blends, make sure that person can handle the workload. And then once you get to a certain dollar amount, you're going to have to cut him loose or add another person. You got to cut that trade loose or add another person.
Yeah, that's perfect what he said, though. Because, our tile division, it only did, $350K last year. So our brick, we're planning on doing 1.5 this year. We have a PM. We have a sales. So I love that he made a benchmark on a number.
So the type of flooring, we don't do any floor coatings, we do floor coverings. So LVP laminate is going to be our number 1. Tile is going to be our number 2. We do some hardwood, and then carpet is usually the lower end of the realm. Not too much. Yeah, LVP, luxury vinyl planks.
Yeah.
That's number one for us here in Tampa, Florida. I know in a lot of other states that's not number one. We don't buy from Sherwin-Williams for our flooring. We use Sherwin-Williams. Yeah, Sherwin-Williams in our area only sells commercial, and they're mainly only carpet for us.
Right on. Awesome. You got a question, bro?
I have a follow-up on this same thing of just your guys' customer experience. So like if you're doing gutters, floor coatings, and paint all on the same home, are you then having 3 PMs dispatched on that one project? And have you had any problems of finger pointing or anything like that in that sense?
So you said if somebody does gutters, floor coatings, and painting? No. So that's one client that we're working with, right? But that one client deals with 3 different PMs. So we found that there was no problems. That might be overkill for some people, but for us, it's been working just fine. It's been seamless. We haven't had a problem. It works well because, all the PMs have to work together. So if we're going to be doing gutters, well, the gutter guy's got to go there, yank it off, and then it's back. The baton gets handed back to the painting crew to get the fascia done before we can come back, or get the house painted before we come back and put the gutters on, right? So those two always interact. So gutters and flooring don't ever interact, but flooring and painting always do. And then painting and gutters always do, but the other two don't. Does that answer the question? No, so we're in Nevada, like the worst state possible on the planet to get a license. And so by the time you've given, a blood supply and a firstborn, nobody wants to be a sub in my state. It's impossible to find subcontractors. So everything is for us as W-2. Everybody's in-house. Everybody's a part of the family.
Regarding the Christmas lights, I live in a place where there's going to be snow on the roof and ice on the ground constantly during that season. How do you deal with that, or is it just a non-issue and you don't do it?
Yeah, great question. What's your market? Central Oregon. Yeah, throughout the years being involved in lights, I've launched lights businesses in Minneapolis and Ann Arbor and very cold climates. So it's typically a non-issue. A lot of times you'd start lights early. Some bigger businesses, we had a first-year member in the Holiday Lights Academy. They're based in Northeast Ohio, so Cleveland area, cold climate, probably similar to you. And they did $1 million in their first year. You just start earlier. So this past year was their second year. They did $3 million in revenue. They started in August, actually, believe it or not. So they're just starting a little bit earlier. For you, for example, if you're in Oregon, you're worried about the weather or snow or other conditions, you can start in October or November, but you'll probably wrap up by December 10th or 15th. For removals, that could be different. In markets like Minneapolis and Ann Arbor or Cleveland, there's snow on the roof. So you could delay removals or the takedown of the lights till probably March or late February. Customers don't mind. They're conditioned in those markets to think that way anyways. So it just adjusts based on your market.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so the academy that you run, Holiday Lights, are you saying that like we could send people to? Sorry, I do have 2 questions. We could send people to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, with the Holiday Lights Academy, we have a booth here at the Expo, so you can visit us and learn more. But we help business owners grow, launch, and scale their holiday lights business. So helping painting business owners, window washing, pest control, landscape, add on holiday lights as an alternative revenue stream.
So to bring them to the funnel and then actually recruiting, I'll kind of touch on both because we're all subs. And I think it's crucial in both companies, your main core company and your secondary business, if that's the model you're going to go, to have a big Rolodex of subs and not just have a few. So for me, Tanner's group here, painting contractors, that's where we find so many painting subs. Make a post on painting contractors. You can go on Indeed, go around town, go to Sherwin-Williams, talk to everybody, go to Sherwin-Williams, grab the ugliest cards on the on the walls, give them all a call. Hey, you need some work. Anybody around, then you can go to flooring stores if you're looking to go to floor coverings as well, do the same exact things. Look for the magnet guys, give them calls. And that's going to be crucial for one, but then actually selling them on your vision. So it's still a basic interview that you should be doing, just like you would be doing for W-2. Sell them on the vision. Hey, I know things are tough. I know you're not able to stay well, kind of discover if they're not able to stay busy. I know you're not able to stay busy. You probably don't want to deal with sales. You're probably not great at sales, probably not great at marketing, probably don't want to deal with PM or the hassle of am I going to get paid or not. We take care of all the front end and the back end stuff. All you have to do is what you're great at, and that's selling them the vision. We're going to keep you busy, do great work, sell them the vision, and that's kind of how we build our Rolodex of subs. Did that answer your question?
How does gross profit margin differ when you switch from 1099 contractors to W-2 employees?
Yeah, so whenever we transitioned from W-2 to 1099, our gross profits were around the same.
So for subs, one thing that like, since we're winter, right? So we're in Michigan, so we have a winter. So I get my best employees in the winter because everybody that's not doing, I double down in marketing, right? And I get, Indeed, I get some of my best guys. I mean, the best guys that I have in my company and best subs I got were all in the winter when everybody was slow because no one had work. I mean, I just onboarded 7 great sub crews for spring for exterior season, right? And they're great. So it's like, it really just depends on where you're at. The vetting process is huge, but your brand's huge as well, right? If you got a great brand, everybody knows about you, everybody hears good things, you're gonna gravitate great people to that as well. So I think that's a big, big thing. I mean, Russell Pete's got a dog brand, you know what I mean? So I'm sure people are gonna wanna jump and work for him other than the other Chuck in the trucks.
Just to elaborate further on GP, W-2 is not as controllable on GP. That's what I like. You can get percentages, or I'm not a fan of saying, hey, you're getting 30%, you're getting 50%. We give a job, we give a full company cam link of all the photos on the job. They accept it, they decline it. Your payout is $1,500. It's gonna stay that amount. So you already know what your GP is, so you can project future jobs. All your projections on your spreadsheets, you can project all your cash flow, profits, losses, etc. With W-2, you never know what's gonna go on that.
We don't run subs, but I'll push back a little on Russell there. Our GP is pretty predictable. Across the board of each of our trade, we've mastered it to the point where I could consistently say all jobs finish at 65% GP, and that's just the way that we get them done in a day. So to answer the question of like subs, what I did in my position, we can't run subs, it's impossible. So I just took on partners. And so Eric right there, that young pup right there with a green shirt on that looks kind of douchey, worked for me. He was a 21-year-old kid, worked for me, did coatings for me in the ground, and came to me one day with a dream and was like, hey man, we should do gutters and I want to be your partner. And so he wrote me a business plan and basically crown. And, today, I think last year we did about $2 million in gutters. So it made sense for me to take on a partner because I really didn't want to, take care of that baby. Kristen's a partner in our new business. She's going to be running our nano coating business. One of our other guys here, he's a partner in some of our stuff too. So for me, it made more sense just to make these guys partners and let this be their baby. And I didn't want to work every day, all day. I didn't care about owning everything and 100% of everything. I was more focused on like hanging out with my family and, taking vacations every month. And so that's kind of where it made sense for me. I don't make a ton of money, but I got a ton of freedom. And so that was worth it to me, watch my kids grow up, to be at every recital and, every silly little match. And so that's the stuff it meant for me. So that's how I did it.
Yeah, I can piggyback that too with the W-2s. Like we constantly are at between 60 to 65%. We keep A players. We have a training program. So, I mean, I make the same amount from my W-2s as I do as my subs.
If you offer a variety of services, how important is it to separate them into different entities?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Some people have all their trades under one umbrella, which there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it made financial sense to separate them all, just in case if we did a commercial job that was $200,000 and it blew up on our face, well, that commercial job wouldn't take down the rest of the houses. If they sued me, then they got through the corporate veil, and then they would just wipe me out, became me within months. And so it's easier just to have these, so we can just cut these little widgets off. So everything we run is under one house as far as like the office goes. We got the same people answering the phones for everything. We got the same people scheduling for everything. But if there's a problem and a problem occurs for, God forsake, Eric becomes, just this grown up pompous prick, and then I want to bail out of it, well, then that's not going to affect the rest of my businesses. So for me, that's what really made sense to separate those, because if you take on a massive painting job, you can wipe out your coatings business, your other business, if you have it under one umbrella. I know guys that do it all under one, and I know that's a risk for them, but they're willing to take that, and it just wasn't made for me. I'm a painter. I still paint for fun. Kristen and I, a couple friends, we paint probably 15, 20 houses for funsies because I just enjoy it. So my hands are calloused over, and that's what's really important to me. But I wanted to make sure that nothing else would affect the other things too, because I do have different partnerships, so I didn't have to worry about one affecting the other.
If I can elaborate just on fail safes as well, maybe it's a little off track, but everything should be in separate LLCs, even vehicles. If a vehicle is crashed on the road and if it's its own company, it can't take down your painting company, for example.
Do you have each vehicle on LLC, or you have them all under one LLC and rent them back?
I have all of my vehicles under one LLC, Peach Sales, and then Peach Painting leases the vehicles from Peach Sales.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so just with the legal separation, is that purely legal separation, or are we talking different brands as well? Are you trying to capitalize on the Battleborn name or the Peachborn name, no matter the business?
I think it's the same for Russell. Like the brand is Battleborn, and then it's the widget, coatings, paintings, cabinets, refinishing. And so the brand is the Battleborn, but the widget is where the the S Corp comes into, and it separates it. And I think it's the same for you, right?
Yeah, it's the same for me because when you build a brand, obviously if your painting company's been around for a long time, you have some really nice branding, you need to leverage that on a new startup. So that's going to get you a lot of revenue, a lot of more clients because they see mine is a big peach around town. We have all these big peach characters all around town on our wraps. So they remember that from the painting. They're going to see it on the flooring and put two and two together.
Cool. Questions, guys?
What's up? This is for everyone, anyways, on the panel. What's the most important piece of advice you would give to aspiring multi-trade business owners, and can you share a lesson learned from a mistake or a failure? I know, Will, you've got a bunch of them that others here in the room could. Yep, right. But that others in here would be able to benefit from.
Oh, question was, what was a lesson that you've learned that
Yeah.
a mistake or a failure that we could all benefit from?
So one thing that I see a lot of is that people try to start a new division too early. Okay. That's probably the biggest mistake that I see constantly. If you don't have your systems intact, you don't have your first main, company, whatever you want to call it, running well, it's just going to be a cluster. I can tell you that. And it's going to be even more of a headache. So I would really make sure that your systems are intact. You have your first company running really well before venturing off and trying to do other things. I would say that's the best advice to prevent you the most hurt.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've made a lot of mistakes. Been with a lot of big brands over the years, like 1-800 Got Junk and Shack Shine and many others. And we've all made lots of mistakes that we learn from. And the main thing that I've taken out of that is what I've said, FFE. It's focus, faith, and effort. And the biggest mistake that I've made personally is not believing in myself to invest in my business for growth. Thinking, I'm not sure if I should add that truck or invest in marketing or invest in this part of the business. So I didn't have the belief in myself or my systems or my people. Whereas if I took that leap earlier, I would have been miles further ahead than if I hesitated. And the focus, faith, and effort. Focus means focus on the systems, your business, your task at hand. Faith means have faith in your systems, your people, and yourself. And then effort, just put in the good old-fashioned effort and everything will work out. And at some points in my career, I failed to do that. And looking back, that's probably the biggest learning opportunity.
Any stories of failure?
Yeah, it's a really good question. First thing, there's no losses, there's only lessons. Life is all about perspective. People can get so beat up on what they lost, but what did you learn out of that loss to not replicate? That's the first thing. Big thing is trying to spread yourself too thin, being worried about spreading yourself too thin. Of course, I've launched other stuff, bathtubs and countertops, just like Will said, and things didn't go so well. But I think that, I learned my lessons and I overstaffed. I made sure whatever I did in the future, I overstaffed and I devalued money. So a lot of people are so attached to money and money's not real. Don't get so attached to it. It's only a vehicle for you guys to move from one place to the next in life. So if you get a sense of that after your loss and take it as a lesson on what not to do, overstaff, make sure next time you do it correctly and completely separate whatever else you're doing.
I can tell you I made the mistakes that Nick's talked about. I made the mistakes, I apologize, Paul has talked about. I made the same mistakes that Russell's talking about. But I would, totaled you. But I would tell you the biggest mistake I made, and it was probably the best learning lesson, was I had a team of people that would keep telling me, hey, let me do that. And I would not let go. And yeah, I don't need the looks right here with this, my number 2 right here, Kristen, the second in command. I can't tell you how many times she would just let me do this. I can do this. And I would be like, no, I can do it. I got to do it. No one's better than me. No one can do it better than me. I'm the smartest. I'm the best at this. And when I finally started letting go, going, we're talking like, I'd let her answer the phone. Then I'd let her go on, a proposal and a bid, an estimate. When I started doing that, things started to take off for us. That was my biggest lessons is why didn't I just delegate out this stuff earlier? And now I don't even want to be bothered with anything. If I'm scheduled for a proposal, I'm like, really? Why? Oh, someone's got a doctor's. Can't we just move them? I don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, somebody calls and asks for me, like, why? No. That's the PM's problem. That's not my problem. Don't call me. Call me if something's burning. But yeah, delegate your stuff out faster. That's why I said earlier, get comfortable making less because it's going to be a lot easier to make less than deal with the problems and the waves are crashing over your head and you can't breathe anymore.
That's good. So I want to pivot here. We have obviously a room full of painting contractors. Let's talk about bundling services. I think a big focus has been these accessory services that we can add on, but let's talk about adding value in the home to someone that wants a painting job, but you see opportunity for alternate revenue streams within that scope of work without scaring away the customer with too much selling happening in that home. So let's dive into that a little bit.
So shout out Jason Phillips, but that's part of when we walk in the door. So we tell them, we're going to look at what you want, and we're also going to tell you what you might need done too, right? So, and we ask their permission for that, right? Right when we get in the door. So for us, it's like, coming as someone, walking in the door that they trust, and you're trying to build that trust. But that's honestly the reason why we built the tile division, was because we were going to cabinets all the time, and they're like, oh, do you have a tile guy? Oh, do you have a tile guy? We really just want to use one company for everything. We kept hearing it. So it was like, okay, we're going to build tile. And we just made on all of our cabinet jobs. Now we make a lot of extra money by doing backsplashes and floors, all the time. So I think it really depends on how you walk in there with that question and them giving me permission to basically, if I see something that you need done, I'm going to mention it. Makes it real easy for me.
From a Holiday Lights perspective, we work with a lot of painting companies at Holiday Lights Academy, and a lot of them provide a Holiday Lights quote to every painting quote or job that they do. The great thing about Holiday Lights is the average job size is about between $1,500 and $2,000. 90% repeat rate year over year. Average customer sticks around for 7 to 8 years. So it's a high margin, high value service. From an upsell perspective, or when you quote a painting job or complete a painting job, you're just educating the customer, say, hey, you know what? Your brand new fascia siding looks great in this color. What would look awesome is some warm white holiday lights or Christmas lights on your house and your trees. Let me give you a price for that. So it's more educating them. They may not know. The holiday lights industry is still being professionalized right now. It's a brand new industry. It's like 5-10 years old. So educating the customer on what's available, house lights, landscape lights, and providing them an estimate based on their needs.
Yeah, so we got 3 Contractor Freedom students up here. So we all have So we all have similar thought process on it. We got to focus on what you want to have done and what you need to have done, because sometimes those can be different. And a lot of people can be swayed differently or swayed in the wrong way when they're expecting a $5,000 proposal and then, oh, you do flooring as well? I need flooring in my whole house done. Now you're presenting, instead of 5K, you're presenting 25K. So that goes back to focusing on what you want to have done and what you need to have done. If you set that up on the forefront, you can pull back and say, what we can do is we can just lock this in for later on down the road. If you just want to give us a signature, we'll lock it in for a full year for you. But and then to reinforce what Nick Kelly said is, I didn't just start a flooring company because it sounded great. It sounds great. I want to just lay some floors. We get free leads all the time from our painting company. And then we also I'm sure everybody here knows that the $1,500 jobs, those clients that come, sometimes they're amazing, but sometimes those guys are the ones that give us a lot of problems. Then the guys that are paying us 25, 40K, those are always the best clients as well. So now this can kind of be another filtering process of who those top tier clients are going to be for us as well.
So the question was like how to bundle those 2 services and how they kind of cross over. Is that correct? Okay. So for us, same thing with Russell and I think with Nick, it was just a necessity thing. We were sending so much money out to a gutter company we used, Dunn Right Gutters. The guy's name is Dave Dunn. And he had a great reputation in town. And I said, hey, call them up. Hey, Dave, what do you think about us doing gutters? Oh, Will, it's saturated, man. You don't even know. And I was like, have you met painting? Everybody with a bucket and a brush and a truck is a painter. I can't tell you how many homemakers I've met. I can paint, and everyone's an expert on it, right? And so I said, well, if I can make it in painting, I probably do it in gutters. That's when Eric and I paired up and so on. So I can tell you, I'd say 80% of the paint jobs needed gutter repair, gutter services, gutter guards. So it just made sense for us to bring it in. So it's an easy crossover for sale. If somebody in here is thinking like, hey man, what's the next trade I want to introduce? I highly recommend thinking in gutters. You can do roofing, but it's a lot. You can do coatings, but it's a lot. But gutters is an easy sell. It's a necessity. If you're in a rainy area, Missouri, any place that rains, if you're not selling gutters, you're missing out. It's an easy add-on.
Awesome.
For gutters, so gutters is relatively cheap. If you have subs, it's nothing. It's, Chris Mole painting and gutters. That's it if you're running subs. If you're doing it yourself, I think startup, what do you think, Eric? 25? 25 G's? If you've got a truck, if you've already got a truck, a trailer, and a gutter bender, you're going to, what, 25? Use your big boy voice. Yeah, so $25,000, $30,000 and you're off and running. You're punching gutters out by the end of the week. So it's a relative, whereas flooring, a lot of guys love flooring. They like the allure of it. I can do it because it's kind of like painting. What would you come in for flooring? What it's 20,000 is what started you? And that was on a small grinder. That was on a small this and that. If you want to start punching out garages every day, you're going to be in 50K. So I suggest gutters on that. I hope that answers the question, though.
Yeah, brick was the same way for us. Like, we do exteriors, right? We're basically getting a 2-for-1 on every lead we go on. So if we go on a brick estimate, right, and we see the exterior needs to be painted, we're quoting them on painting. If we on a painting estimate and they're worried about water getting in their house and they need tuck pointing in a chimney, that's a 2-for-1, right? It just makes the most sense. You know what I mean? So that was our thought process on brick as well.
I haven't heard a lot, but even in my painting business, trim is always an easy upsell. Crown molding, 5-inch baseboards. Do you guys do any trim work? Upsell that as well?
Yeah, we do a ton of crown molding, baseboards, 5.25-inch baseboards when they have the 2 or 3 inch.
Yep. So, guys, a couple more questions from the audience, guys. We got about 10 minutes left. So, anybody got any burning questions, sir? Startup costs.
It really depends how you're doing it. If you're subbing it out for the tile, it didn't cost me anything. And basically, I went and vetted the subs. They had all their own equipment. We worked out a percentage. Basically, I sell the job. I give you a certain percent, and we were on and running. Didn't cost me a thing, literally. A little bit more in advertising, I guess. For the brick, because we are going to have some W-2 crews, we had to buy a truck, we had to buy a trailer, we had to buy the tools. So I think it was around like $55,000 we spent for one setup for one crew. And that's only one crew. Now, if you want to get 2 crews going, you're probably going to be in 100. Now, you could get a loan. You know what I mean? That doesn't have to be liquid necessarily, right? Especially you have good cash flow in your business and stuff like that as well. So, it really just depends on how big you want it to be, right?
For holiday lights, startup costs are split up into 3 areas. So equipment, the lights, products, and also I'll speak to the leasing model as well for lights. So as far as the equipment is concerned, all of you have ladders and the basic tools needed to access a house. In addition to that, you'll need about $1,000 worth of equipment materials to install lights on a home. Then comes the lights, the lights, the wire, the plugs, and all that. Big Star Lights is here. Daniel from Big Star Lights, our awesome vendor partner. We have a booth here. You can check out all their products. 2 ways you can approach that. You can either choose to pre-order as far as a pre-season order or before the season, so stock some inventory. Suggestion is about $5,000 or $10,000 worth of your most used inventory, like black wire, white wire, warm white bulbs, multicolor bulbs. Or you can order on demand. Depending where you're at, it can be shipped to your location in about 2 to 5 days. So if you book a job for $10K, they've requested fuchsia bulbs, you can order it and it can be shipped to your home. So you can use the deposit you got from the job to pay for the material. So not much of an initial investment for lights. The leasing model, last thing I'll touch on, is The model that's traditional in the industry is leasing lights to the customer. So it's the same price every year, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and on. Average job price about $1,500, so it's the same price every year. But from the first year, you're paying off the lights. You own the lights, you're leasing it to the customer, but the first year you're paying for those lights. So a $1,500 job is about $300 in lights. So your GP on the first year is about 65%. The second year jumps to about 80% because you've paid off those lights. So not much of a startup cost, and you really realize the benefits because of the 90% repeat rate with lights.
Free 99 if you're a sub kind of guy like I am. Of course, after a while, after you're doing like $1 million, you buy a little Prius for your sales vehicle. We get a wrap Prius 08 to 15. We have that for all of our sales guys and all of our project managers, 10 grand or less. Then, of course, whatever marketing, but everything else, free 99.
Yeah, I think I just covered this. For gutters, it's about 30,000. That's if you're dragging a trailer, and if you decide to buy a truck, we run box trucks, and we're actually switching into the Ford Sprinter vans because they're all-wheel drive and they have no problems picking up and going. So that's going to be a little more. Those are $40,000, $50,000 used plus all your equipment inside. And then for floor coatings, to get up and running to start to do it right, I think we were in almost $100,000 to get with the truck, the grinder, the generators. We had to have double of everything because we were going pretty hot at it. So it just depends on how you want to ease into it. I think Chris, like I said, he was in for 20,000 and he prints money. What's your average job size for floor coatings? Yeah. So I remember when we talked about it, he bought a machine, this great machine called a Rhino, and it just prints money for him. It plugs into a wall. You don't need a fancy generator for it. You put weights on it when you need it. It just prints money. So you can do it for really affordable, but depending on how you want to scale up is where you're going to look at that. So
he's got a question here.
Got a question for Paul. Paul, is it? The lights?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm on my third year of doing lights, actually. We bought about 45 clients from Christmas Decor the first year, and we're just under 100 clients. Now, you mentioned something earlier that you teach painting companies how to give their customers an additional estimate for lights when they go up to look at the painting estimate?
Correct, yeah.
Have you ever gotten any objection, any back,
It's all part of it's a system, it's a process, and it's a script. So first of all, identifying the process and what's your script. It's not being a pushy salesperson or giving something the customer isn't asking for. It's educating them on, hey, have you thought about installing lights on your home? This is a new industry. What we have is custom cut, professional grade, durable lights that would look awesome on your home and these two front trees. So it's more from an education perspective. So A, I'd say, what's your script? And then B, if it's you doing the estimating or you have a team, train them on the proper way to approach it. And you won't get every estimate or every job doing holiday lights, but increase your surface area of opportunity. So educate more customers, talk to them about it, maybe have dual marketing collateral. The more you get it out there, the higher surface area of opportunity, the more jobs you'll get.
Nice. Guys, we got time for one more question. Anybody have a burning question?
Question directed toward Will and floor coatings. Do you train all of your guys in-house when it comes to floor coatings? Because it can be very technical. Or do you send them somewhere to get training, or do you just hire subs who know what they're doing?
So that's a really good question. And so depending on the material that you're using, some manufacturers make you go to their training facility and get certified on their stuff. And so, for instance, if you become a coatings contractor and, Tesla calls you up and says, I need this specific coating that goes on there, and you don't put it on, or you're like, yeah, cool, I'll put it on. Well, you can't put it on until you go to their shop and get certed up, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, we train everybody in-house, but it's to call. When we were a PaintED dealer, we had to go out to PaintED and get certified with them. Obviously, we're not a PaintED dealer anymore, but it just depends. Commercial jobs, somebody walks there and drops a $250,000 commercial job on you, you'll go send your guys anywhere to get certified. So for the most part, you can train in-house, but there are coatings companies out there, Crown, all these other guys, they'll train you there, no problems. And it's not a hard thing to do. It's very simple to be a coatings guy. There's not much that can go wrong, but when it goes wrong, man, it's beyond fucked.
Guys, I want to thank everyone for being here. Give it up for our panelists.
This content is brought to you by the PCA and the PCA Education Foundation. with help from our national champions, Benjamin Moore and Sherwin Williams, and the PCA's 2025 industry partners.